It's not like he called the cops planting this thing to say, okay, I'm planning to go kill this guy. So when I call the cops, I want to make sure I don't say he's a brown skin tone. I'm not going to say that at first. I'm going to hold that back so it makes me look innocent. If you have a desire within you to hurt someone, and you have this driving force to hurt someone, you're not thinking logically enough to, in a calculated manner, to conceal your hatred. Because your hatred is what's driving you forward. So, there's a lot of contradiction in all this. And they're going to forgive a football player who actually said the word, and it took him 2 months, and only when the video came out did he admit to this poor behavior. Paula Deen didn't have to say it in court. She could have lied, but she was honest on the stand and took her swearing in truthfully and to heart and told the truth. She had used the word at some point in the past. George Zimmerman was put on trial for his freedom, for his life, because people were talked into it by the media and by these self-elected judges of racism, like Al Sharpton, that he was a racist because he shot someone of brown skin tone, even though there was no evidence, including the phone call that he made to the police officer the night the incident occurred, that he actually had a prejudice towards people of brown skin tone. Doesn't that add up to something really questionable when you're going to let someone who actually was caught doing it and only apologize after the fact? You have a guy who never did it, to the best of anyone's knowledge, and you have a woman who freely admitted it in court when she didn't even have to. She wouldn't have been caught one way or another. Isn't there something wrong about the balance of that? It's just sad. It's like, it's not like, it's just, there's something wrong with the weight of justice when those kinds of things are going on. And then I find the A-Rod thing funny, because I'm almost out of time, but I find the A-Rod thing funny because if you've noticed, the only one who gives a damn about him being on steroids is pretty much the league. I haven't heard a lot of stories about fans saying they give a damn about whether he's used steroids or not. Probably because most viewers and people who go to watch baseball know a lot of these guys are using some kind of performance enhancement. And they don't go there to see a boring game where little Alex Rodriguez catches the ball and taps the guy on the back when he runs by his base. You're going to pay $40 or $50 to go see that? No, you go for the intensity and the passion of the struggle. What happens when you're on some kind of a performance enhancement? Your senses and your attitude is heightened. Now, I'm sure there are very passionate baseball players who go full bore into it. I don't think they probably do it for years on hand without having some kind of a support system, because these men play 160 games a year. Or maybe more than that now. They play 160 plus games a year, and half of the time they lose. It's more likely you're going to become indifferent and just focus on what you're doing versus being crazy, incensed, and passionate and exciting about it. And let's face it, if they weren't televised, and you didn't see all these interviews with people like A-Rod or Nolan Ryan or all these guys, you wouldn't give a damn about them. They would be big within the community of baseball players. But these guys have become larger than life in media because that's what's been designed. That's the way it's been put out there. They look at their bad boy behaviors. They don't spend a lot of time bragging about how... They don't spend a lot of time. They do it in some cases. In random cases, but most of the time they're talking about bad boy behavior, where they're acting up. Because you don't see women, the women's swim team, getting a hell of a lot of press for what they do for being bad boys, or the tennis team being that way. Baseball and football and basketball. There are people with intense personalities. And part of that comes out because they lose self-control of their situations. I'm not blaming steroids for Riley Cooper. Riley Cooper needs to blame himself for that and deal with himself in that. And that's the only way he'll heal. You want to call it healing. It's just sad, though, to me, that there's such an unbalanced perspective and justice when it comes to all these things. And of course, one of the things that was interesting in the news, and I tried to do a little research on this before I got on here, but if you've heard of Ariel Castro, the guy who held 3 young women, beg your pardon, he held 3 young women hostage as sex slaves for over a decade. He was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years. I don't mind that he was sentenced for life in prison. In other words, you're going to die in prison. Okay? I get that. What is the point of saying you were sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years? Because if you say you're life in prison without the possibility of parole, that pretty much covers it. With the exception of the question, here's one for you. What happens to that extra 1,000 years? And this is something I was looking up online. I was wondering if when you put someone in prison or sentence them to life plus an excessive amount of time, like you're sentenced to 200 years in prison. Well, in most cases, if you're 50 years old, you have to serve at least a third or a half, I'm pretty sure it's a half now, before you can even be eligible. Well, how many 150-year-old people do you know? Okay? So my point is, I'm wondering if when someone is convicted of that excessive amount of time to be in prison, I wonder if taxpayers continue to pay for their incarceration even after they're dead, as though they are a living, breathing person that still exists in the system. Interesting question, huh? If you know the answer and you've done research on it, I would love to hear. I don't love it, but I would be very interested. I went from love to interest. I'm sorry. It's over between us. No, I just don't want to abuse the word love because it's very important to me. But I would be very interested and intrigued by the answer to that question. They already say the death penalty costs more than keeping someone in prison for life, which makes me wonder, are you injecting them with gold? Anyway, that's pretty much it for today. I appreciate your watching as always. I really means a lot to me. It keeps me motivated. I motivate myself to get on, but it's that extra level of inspiration when I know there are people checking it out. It means a lot to me. Hopefully next year. Here's a quick thing. It's really important too. Because of your support, I am edging towards 10,000 views. And my goal was only 97 or 10,000 by the end of the year. We're in first month of August, and there's a strong likelihood that because of you, my effort, but your participation, that we will reach 10,000 before the end of the month. And that means a great deal to me. And it really helps me to feel good about the goal that I set and exceeding that goal. So, my deepest thanks. Alright, I'm out of here. As always, take great care and live with passion. See you on the flip side of today. Not the counterclockwise, but the clockwise, which would be tomorrow. Bye.